Hi, my name's Mason and I work for Comet Backup here in New Zealand. Welcome along to another Technical Highlights webinar. During these webinars I talk for about half an hour on some Comet topics. So there's a Comet webinar every fortnight. We alternate every fortnight. It will either be an introductory webinar for new users or a more in-depth one where I talk about new features and current events. In the past I've talked about all kinds of things too, best practices, IT industry news, but actually we've started developing a bit faster recently. We've been seeing some great traction that has enabled us to take on more development staff. Features are starting to appear faster, and recently, in my recent webinars, I've felt like I've spent most of the time just talking about new features, which is great. Great for you because there are some really cool and useful features that you should know about. So I give these webinars every 4 weeks, except for disruptions. For instance, there was no webinar 4 weeks ago because I was planning to go on holiday, but of course the world situation has changed a little bit, and of course our personal holiday schedules are not quite as important as the global crisis. So you've heard this already from every company under the sun, but just to quickly reiterate, hope you're all okay. Sincere best wishes from us to you and all of your families. We're all well. We're taking this very seriously. All staff have been 100% remote for over a month now. We're spending a lot of time in Slack and email and video meetings. We're lucky that our company had previously been part-time remote, and so this has been a relatively straightforward policy for us to implement. The bigger picture, ongoing demand for PC backups. Nice to step back for a minute and think about what is the impact on the backup industry. It's hard to say for certain. Probably the full impact isn't felt yet. If we're going to have a recession, then a lot of companies are going to be deeply impacted across the board. But as for the backup industry itself, and the larger IT industry in general, it seems to be in a relatively strong position. Knowledge workers in particular, there's a lot of new devices as people transition to working from home, and these devices need to be backed up. People scaling up their server capacity. There's a lot of IT work that needs to be done, and backups are an important part of that. So in the large, statistically, overall, there are some reasons to be optimistic, even positive. Fingers crossed, but that is in the large. And down at the personal level, everyone is experiencing something slightly different, the exact situation, different countries, and we're certainly aware of customers that if you specialize in certain market segments that are badly affected, if you are experiencing financial hardship and it's affecting your backup service, please contact us. There's a few ways we may be able to help, starting with bill relief as a basic option. We're all in this together, is basically what I'm getting at. What I was talking about was today's webinar topics. Last time I gave a webinar was 8 weeks ago, on March the 4th. At that time I talked about new features in the Iris 20.2 release track. And some of the new features at the time that were in it, such as periodic schedules, a live preview of upcoming schedule times, right when you're editing them. macOS Notary support, so this works by SSHing into your Mac, extending our code signing capabilities for the latest and arguably greatest versions of macOS. Let's just say macOS Catalina is a bit of a controversial upgrade. Last time we also talked about the new detailed OS versions on the connected devices page and how that can help you manage the important end of security lifetime for Windows 7 and for Windows Server 2008 and R2. The internet is a pretty hostile place, and it's just not safe to be plugged into the internet if you're not getting security updates. Other new features in the Iris track include the ability to delete files and folders within an existing backup snapshot by using the new right-click options in the Restore dialog, and also choosing which of your policies is the default one in the Comet Server web interface. So that was last time, and it was a very busy webinar, lots of information. If you missed it, I think you can watch a replay of it on this platform, or some clips will make their way onto our YouTube channel soon. As for today, I'm just going to spend the rest of the time talking about some new features in the last month because, wow, really, what a month. There's been a lot of cool new things happening in Comet. There are 6 major new features that I want to highlight, and each one of them is more of a feature topic, really, because the first one on my list is new password features, and I'm counting this as one of the 6 but there's really quite a few new small things all related together that I want to talk about. So when you go to add a new user account, There's a few new things here you might notice. For one, there's a new button to generate a random password. Generated passwords are 10 characters long, upper and lowercase, numbers, special characters. Actually, we tried to strike a good balance because it has to be strong, obviously, but you still need to be able to, read it out over the phone to a customer if that's what you do. So that was generate a random password. Or if you're typing in a password, there are new ways to make sure that you type the password in correctly. So there's the confirmation field. Or you can use the eye toggles to make the password visible. So this is new in the 20.3 release versions of Comet. And at the bottom of this dialog, there's a new checkbox to require the user to change the password at the next login. And now, as soon as the customer logs into the app or into the web, or installs Comet on a new device for the first time, they will be prompted to change the password. Now this means there's a nice secure workflow. Now you can quickly generate a random password for the new account, send it to the customer, they have to change it, easy and secure. And so what the checkbox actually does is, if you check it, then when you create the new account, it turns on this flag on the user's profile page. So you can actually turn this on at any time, not just when creating the account. And the next time the customer logs in, they will be required to change the password. So maybe you could turn this on every 90 days, or if you had a security breach elsewhere, then maybe you could use this feature to reset all Comet passwords, something like that. Still on the subject of new password features, but going outside the add user dialog for a minute, admin password updates. So administrators have long had the ability to reset a customer's password if and only if the customer has enabled the allow administrator to reset my password field. And that's an important recovery feature. It's good if you think your customers might get locked out of their accounts. But at the same time, we have a lot of high security, high privacy requirement customers in the government and medical fields where this is a non-starter. So this is there's long been an option to turn that off. So that the feature for resetting customer passwords has been around for a while. What's new is the ability to change the customer's password if the allow administrator to reset my password flag is off, but you happen to know their current password. If you, the admin, know the customer's current password, I believe that's equivalent consent, and it enables some scenarios like, if the customer's lost all their devices and needs you to perform a restore, but they can't do the password reset themselves, then now they can tell you the password and you can do it for them via the admin web interface. So that is another small bullet point password feature, and the last one on this slide is in the Comet Server web interface. There's your My Account page in the top right where you can see your admin account, time zone, language, change your password and so on. If you're allowing the end users to log into the Comet Server web interface, we've now made that My Account page available to end users so they can go in and change their own password via the web interface. So that's covered these 6 small new password related features, all available now in the Comet 20.3 series. And now that end users can access this My Account page, to manage their passwords through the web interface, we've also improved our support for two-factor authentication. Now, Comet has supported two-factor authentication for a long time, but there are some new things to point out. Firstly, the feature is a lot easier to use. It's easier to turn on and off. We're down to a single on-off switch. The registration dialog with the QR code will automatically appear on demand without needing any separate action to rotate your TOTP key. So this is a lot simpler. If you're used to the old behavior, this is a lot simpler. Another new thing, you can see it in the screenshot, is that we now prompt you to enter one valid TOTP code before saving changes. This helps make sure that you've got the code set up correctly inside your Authenticator app. TOTP is a time-based code system, so it's really important to ensure that the time is synced correctly on your Comet server and on your phone. So having a single code prompt up front means we can check that it's actually working end to end, instead of if you just enabled it and the time is set wrong somewhere, you would just get locked out straight away. So this is another big improvement. But probably the most major improvement for two-factor authentication in the last 2 months has been the ability to enable two-factor for end-user accounts. So now an end user can log into the Comet Server web interface, turn on TOTP on their new My Account page, and then every time they log into the desktop app, they will be prompted for their TOTP code. This is a nice way to improve security a little bit if you're worried about the customer's password not being very strong, or if an attacker takes over the PC, things like that. Now this feature unfortunately comes with a bit of a disclaimer. It does provide two-factor security and we do recommend using it, but it does only defend against some certain threats. In particular, we do want scheduled backup jobs to keep running in the background, and there's no way to get a second factor in there. Even if the background jobs did TOTP, they would need to do it automatically, so it would still only be one factor. So two-factor authentication doesn't protect against the background tasks. And if a hacker manages to get on the customer's PC and can take over the background tasks, there's still an issue there. Depends a bit on your threat model. If you're dealing with an attacker and they've just taken over the current PC login session and they're not an administrator, then this is secure. It's a good defense. But if the attacker is running as administrator and can take over the background services somehow, then two-factor is not necessarily going to help, although it may still be a useful layer in your defense in depth kind of layering. There's one more important part to this client-side security, which is a new policy option to always require a password to open the desktop app. Now the desktop app kind of has several states. You can use the lock button or the disconnect button, or you can just hit the X in the corner to close the window. Sometimes the app gets locked, sometimes it just gets minimized to the system tray. But if you turn on this new checkbox in the policy, the app will always lock itself when you hide it, and that way you can be sure that the password and the two-factor is always required for login. So there's 4 main bullet points for two-factor authentication and client-side security. The next few features I want to talk about also touch on client-side security. I'm very pleased to announce that Comet now supports remote file browse, that is using the live connection system in Comet so that you as the admin can browse the customer's PC to select files for backup, if they let you. For our government and medical customers and everyone with heightened privacy requirements, obviously this could be a major breach of privacy in the wrong hands, so we do require the customer to have toggled on this feature by enabling the Allow Administrator View File Names checkbox inside the desktop app. And this consent is carefully managed. It can't be forced on by an administrator, so Comet has the flexibility here to be very secure and private if it needs to be. Or you can turn this on and get this really cool new feature to remotely browse the device to help you set up and configure protected items. So this should save you time, assist with troubleshooting, nice to comply with social distancing rules at present, lockdown. So if this feature is enabled, you will see a new Browse button on the Protected Item Editor dialog. And we're talking about the Files and Folder protected item type for now, not any other protected item types, although that may be coming soon. So a little Browse button, and if you click it, you can pick and choose files from the customer's PC. And this goes over the live connection, so obviously the customer will have to be online for this to work. If you're familiar with picking files inside the Comet Backup desktop app, then this works in an identical way. Just use the checkboxes to include and exclude files from your selection. And we can also make use of this technology when going to restore. Once again, only if the device has allowed it. Then you'll see this different view when going to restore, where you can browse straight to where you want the restore to go to. It's a pretty self-explanatory feature. I'm sure everyone will find it incredibly helpful for troubleshooting. It's been a long time coming. I'm glad we've managed to deliver this feature in a way that can be both privacy preserving when necessary and also enabling this really easy experience for MSPs to use. So that's remote file browse. Moving on, another interesting new remote feature is remote uninstall. Have you ever seen that situation where you've deleted a user account, but the app is still trying to log in again and again, and it starts filling up your logs with failed access attempts? Now there's a new feature to remotely uninstall the app. This feature is available on all our supported platforms, Windows, Mac and Linux. You get the option to remove the saved credentials too, just like when you manually uninstall the software. So you can either do this manually from the Live Connections dialog, as per the screenshot, or when you go to delete a user account, there will be an integrated pop-up. So you just go to delete the user account and it will pop up and say, do you also want to uninstall the software? So you can just choose whether you want to do this or not. It's just a nice to have in some remote management situations, help you keep your server logs a little bit tidier. We saw a bit of demand for this feature, and now it's available in current 20.3 series versions of Comet. Yet another major new feature, current versions of Comet, is the brand new direct to Wasabi support. So Comet Backup obviously supports cloud storage. With Comet you can either set up cloud storage inside the Comet Backup app, where the data goes straight to the cloud, or you can set it up in the Comet server, where the data goes from the customer to the Comet server to the cloud storage. There's pros and cons for both ways. Going through the Comet server is an extra hop, so a little bit slower. But it does mean there's a fully branded layer in front, and we can make use of Comet Server's bucket security system so that Comet Server storage role manages all the security around that. Whereas if you put the cloud storage directly inside Comet Backup, the backup job will be a bit faster because it doesn't have to traverse through the Comet Server, but then there's no branding, and you need to manually create buckets for each customer to keep the securely isolated from one another. So that's a bit of work. So those are the main pros and cons. We have been slowly adding support for a third model where the Comet server allocates new direct-to-cloud buckets, and with this third model you get the security of the proxy method with the performance of the direct method. So it kind of gives you some of the best of both worlds. Wasabi in particular, you may have heard of them. They are a cloud storage provider with data centers in the US and EU. They have very competitive pricing, but not only that, they have fast speeds, unlimited bandwidth. They are a major, well-funded organization, and they are very popular amongst Comet users. And importantly, they do have an API system for creating sub-credentials, so Comet can now make use of that to automatically create storage vaults on Wasabi. So the way this works is in the Comet server setup wizard, you fill in your Wasabi account details, and then when it's time to allocate a new storage vault for a customer, Comet server will go and create private Wasabi IAM keys, users, groups, policies, so that the user can have their own secure, isolated access to a subfolder inside your master Wasabi bucket for their backup jobs. As you can see in the screenshot, we already supported this for Backblaze B2 cloud storage. Backblaze are another very popular, cost-effective cloud storage provider. We've just recently extended this to support Wasabi as well. Just to be clear as well, Comet does support a lot of cloud storage providers: S3, Amazon AWS, Google Cloud, Azure Blob Storage, OpenStack, Catalyst, Rackspace, OVH, Aliyun, as well as B2 Wasabi and many others. But for almost all of those, you will have to use one of these first two modes that I was talking about. Either create keys yourself for each customer or proxy the traffic through the Comet server storage role. It's just for B2 and Wasabi we now support this new third way to automatically create these sub keys and push them to the client for safe, easy, fast, direct-to-cloud backup. And we may roll this out to more providers in the future as long as they have this kind of sub key support, but we will need to look at this on a provider by provider basis basically. So that is directly creating direct to Wasabi storage vaults. The last missing piece to make this really attractive for customers is the brand new ability to hide the cloud storage branding entirely. So what you're seeing here in this screenshot is Amazon S3 storage vault and a Wasabi storage vault inside the customer's account, and the customer has no idea that the MSP is using this low-cost cloud storage. So this is a policy option. You can turn it on for some customers or not others, or you could turn it on globally. It hides the name and icon logo for all cloud storage providers. So normally you would be seeing here the Amazon logo and the Wasabi logo, but when this policy option is enabled, they just get replaced with this sort of generic cloud icon. You can see the description has also changed to a generic description in the type column in the web interface. So this is really cool. Coupled with the new direct to Wasabi support and the existing direct to B2 support and all of Comet's other supported cloud providers, this can help you move to using direct-to-cloud backups instead of storage role to take advantage of that performance uplift. Now, hiding is just hiding. It's still possible for someone to figure it out. The most basic way is if you just go edit the storage vault settings, you'll still see the connection details there. So normally we would strongly suggest coupling this with the existing policy to prevent editing existing storage vaults. That's basically it. Probably just always use these two settings together. You'll still never hide it completely because the customer can always, as long as the traffic is going from the customer direct to cloud, then the customer can always look at their firewall, monitor the traffic on their router, Wireshark, Burr programs like that, to see where the network traffic is going. If you're really worried about that, there's nothing we can do. You still need to proxy the data using the storage role in that case. But this is probably good enough to hide it for almost everyone. And if you're currently using cloud storage through the Comet server storage role, this new feature might be the push you need to get the data going direct to cloud from the client app instead. If the Comet server doesn't have to proxy traffic all the time, that can take a huge load off your Comet server and free up quite a lot of resources, so you'll start to see even better performance out of the whole system. That's actually all the new features that I wanted to talk about today. Last few things I do want to say: almost all of the features we've added recently came from our customer requests. Almost all the features we've added recently came from customer requests. Your requests, we really appreciate all the feedback. We listen to all our MSPs, and if you're crying out for a feature, we definitely want to add it. Please check our feature request system on the Comet Backup website. You can create a new request or upvote an existing one. We look at this system often, and all the votes and comments really do help guide our development priorities. And it's great to see that when you raise a feature request, other people will chime in and say they want this too, and you'll get a notification immediately when the feature is ready or when there's any other news about it. When I checked it today, we're up to 64 completed features. We really do get around to developing them. Maybe not straight away, but we are making some seriously good progress through the list. So if you've got any new ideas for Comet that could make your life easier, then come on and add some new feature requests, or at this rate we'll actually complete them all. The other thing I want to just quickly reiterate on is Comet Server's great API support. So the Comet Server web interface itself is built using the public API, so anything you can do by clicking around at the web interface you can do by developing an API integration. Whether that's integrating a new sign-up form for your website, or building custom reporting tools, or really complex automation, like what I mentioned before about maybe resetting that must-change password flag on demand. And it's easy to use. If you're a software developer, or if you can hire a software developer, then it's really easy to get started. The only limit is your imagination. The documentation is really comprehensive. There's a lot of sample codes and SDKs to work with. We even have YouTube tutorials. So there's nothing stopping you enhancing your Comet Server experience, whether that's maybe some customer-facing feature, or if it's some back-end processing for your own benefit. It's all possible. And that's just about all I have for today. Are there any questions? Actually, I'm just kidding, that was a joke. Normally I would take live questions during the webinar, but for technical reasons I can't take live questions today, but we still want to hear from you. If you have any questions at all, we are always happy to help out. We've recently invested further in growing our support team, and we're more than happy to hear your questions by ticket through the usual ticket system at account.cometbackup.com, or you can email us hello@cometbackup.com. Or did you know that we do support phone calls? Our company is based in New Zealand. We have an international support team for round-the-clock level 1 technical support, but if you want a sales call, or if you want any more advanced technical support or troubleshooting, we'll need to figure out a good time that suits both us in New Zealand, UTC plus 12, and also in your country. So if you go to the Comet website, at the bottom of the page you click Contact Us, and then there's an option to schedule a phone call. We're more than happy to jump on a call, and often that's a very quick way of clearing the air and getting answers to any questions you might have. So that's all from me. Hope you're all keeping well and safe, and the webinar series will return in 2 weeks with a new user introduction, and then I'll be back the following fortnight for another technical update. Cheers.